Halo semua, kembali lagi bersama Momu, Gokiburi, Oji-san di sini. Sebentar, lobby. Kamu menghilang? Tidak. Nah, itu dia. Halo semua, kembali lagi bersama Momu, Gokiburi, Oji-san di sini. Hari ini kita akan free talk sambil aku belajar main game. Bikin game, main game. Hey Dark, how you Dark? Welcome, welcome. Semua. Oke. Gudo.
First things first, you need a place to actually do the pixel.
Sorry. Kemarin tuh kita di part 4 udah.
Hello folks, in the last video
5 udah.
Hello folks
6
Hello
udah.
folks, in the previous video we'd gotten as far as adding in these additional levels so the player can actually move between different levels, and we've set up all those systems. But one thing that's still missing is that the player doesn't have any health. The enemies can't do any damage, and
Oh ya, nih udah berarti kita ini.
You're on in the series. On ready, we've got on HUD, so it fades to black.
Yo Momo, halo
We want to wait
Bang
until this is
Raymond.
finished, so we're going to await that operation. Then once that's done,
How are you? I'm fine.
we reset our player stats, load the next level, and then we're ready to fade back in again. So we do the same thing, but this time we're fading to 0. So it's going to be fully transparent. And then we start to fade, everything's reset. And I think that's worth. One thing that we're still missing is an actual visual display to how much health the player has. We're printing.
Oke, kita ini sekarang.
Hello folks, in the last video we added in health.
Ntar aku ganti ke ini. Ini, nah ini codingnya. Gimana kabarmu? Sehat-sehat? Lagi batuk-batuk aja sih.
For the player, so that now the player can actually take damage, get killed, and then that resets the game for us. So that's all pretty good. The problem is that the health isn't displayed anywhere. We print it out down here as a number, but it's not shown anywhere on the UI. So what I would like to do is add little health or rather add little hearts at the top to signify the player's health.
Hey,
The
Dark,
cute
how are you, Dark?
RPG asset pack. But for the health, or for the hearts, I'm actually going to use this other one called Ninja Adventure. This is another free pack, so you can get...
Bentar, kita balik ke sini dulu. Halo Mam, halo Bang sekali pakai buang. Sebentar ya, aku mau masukin asetnya dulu. Ntar yang ninja emang belum ku masukin ya. Harusnya udah sih. Tuh kan, udah. Masukin aja dulu. Ini. Sama bro, aku pas H1 lebaran. Oh iya kah? Batuk-batuk juga kah? Tuh. Wah, bentar. Godoku error. Sebentar guys. Waduh, kenapa ini? Aku force close dulu. Close program dulu. Ada kesalahan teknis guys. Sebentar.
This on itch.io, and I'll leave a link to it in the video description. But the parts that I want to take from it are these heart icons here. Once you download that asset pack and you unzip it, these are the folders and files that you're going to see. And the heart images are inside the UI folder and then inside of the receptacle folder. So here we've got, there's actually different ones, but the ones I'm going to use is this heart file with 5 different, I guess 5 different stages of the heart. If I open it up and zoom in, we can see there's the full heart.
Nah, kita masukin yang heart. Oke, sebentar. Sorry guys. Aku bakal kayak batuk-batuk guys, soalnya memang lagi batuk.
Heart, empty heart, and everything in between going in
panas.
orders. So first of all, let's add that image into our game. We'll head into assets and images, and under here I already have a folder for UI where I've got the health bar for the enemies, which actually came from that same asset pack. And then I need to put the images into here. The problem is though, this is one image, so all of the different hearts are on the same image file. I need to split them up. But that's not too difficult, and you can do it with pretty much any photo editing software. So you can even do it with Paint, although I would recommend using something better, but you can open it up in Paint, then zoom in. I know that these images are 16 by 16 pixels, so I can just, it's going to be a little bit fidgety because they're so small, but basically just grab a square, and in the bottom left you can see how big it is, so 16 by 16, and then just crop it out. So I'll save each of these individually, but I don't actually need all 5 of these hearts. So I'm going to use the empty heart over here, the full heart, and then the half a heart in between. Once you've created each of those, you just save them as heart empty, heart full, and heart half.
Bentar guys. Mesti kita edit berarti ini. Aduh, susah nih editnya ini. Nah, crop. Save as penegak. Project. Heart, heart empty. Save as. Bisa gue buka pakai as sprite nggak sih? Ya udahlah, udah tergantung di sini. Lebih bagus di as sprite sih. Oh. Ah, aduh. Nah. Heartful. Oke. Oke. Godonya godo. Sprite mahal, alternatifnya lip sprite dan similar enough. Ada kok, aku udah beli Sprite. Aku beli pas dia lagi diskon 70.000. Oke, udah ada.
And then drag them over into the UI folder so that they're imported into Godot. So now how do we actually use these? Well, they're going to be part
Pernah
of
tahu
the heads up
Sprite
display.
gampang? Tahu.
And we already have a canvas layer on our main scene called heads up display.
Aku udah bikin beberapa ini
so I head over into that scene.
Eh?
And right now I just have my fade overlay, which is what allows me to fade in and out when the player dies. But what I'm now going to add are the 5 hearts. So I want to add them in the top left in a little row here. And the way to do that is to create what's called a texture rect. So we go into child nodes, and then I'm going to search for texture. Where is it? Down here, texture rect. So this is just a rectangle that's going to take an image inside of it. Then I go into heartful and I just drag that over to assign that texture. I'll rename this to be called heart1. And then I'm just going to...
Heart1 ada di Steam dia. Sprite tuh ada di Steam. Kalau kamu nggak beli di Steam dia memang mahal, $20. Kalau di Steam dia cuma 100.000 soalnya. Apalagi kalau lagi diskon cuma 70.000 deh.
And make 4 more. So that's heart 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I've got a bunch of hearts here, and I could start arranging them like this, side by side, but that's kind of messy. It's not really a great way to do it, and it's going to be really difficult to line them up.
Aku pakai
So
lip
instead,
sprite.
when we're working with these kinds of things, we want to use a container. So let's go back into the heads up display and add another child node. And I'm going to search for a container. And you see there's different types. So there's a container node, but then inside of it there are different children. There's quite a lot here, so it can get a little bit overwhelming, but we're just going to look for a box container. And a box container is something that arranges its child controls horizontally or vertically. So this is exactly what we need.
Oh,
Specifically, we need a H-box container, which is a container that arranges its child controls horizontally.
horizontal.
So
Oh
let's
iya,
bring
oke.
this in, and let's rename this to hearts, and then we'll move it all the way to the top. So what we can now do is grab all of these individual hearts and drag them as children of that container. And suddenly it's arranged.
Udah. Oke. Oh, memang begitu.
them all, it's spaced them all out equally, and it's basically taking care of.
Aduh, ini kenapa tiba-tiba 14 lagi sih? Ini ku bot lagi kah? Bang Raymond please lah.
They do look a little bit weird though, and that's because they've been stretched out. So if I select the first heart and I go over to stretch mode, I can change this to keep. And now, rather than stretching out into the height, it actually just keeps the aspect ratio and leaves space instead. So I guess I should have really done that before I copied and pasted them, because now I have to do that for every single one of them.
Oh.
So we'll just go through each of these one by one and change the stretch mode from scale down to keep.
Oh.
So that's pretty nice, but they are very small. If we zoom out, I can see my game window, and then I've got these
Artinya besar iya. Keep. Nih. Keep. Nah.
tiny little hearts that I can just about see. I think if I was to run this game, I should be able to see them. But yeah, they're so small, they're basically not even noticeable. So let's go into our container and go into layout, transform, and then scale this up to 3. So that should be a lot bigger. If we run this again, yeah, the hearts are much better. So they're not like overtaking the screen, but they are big enough that I can now notice them. And then Godot automatically assigns the X and Y size for this container. So the width is fine because it basically just fits the width of the images inside of it. Each of them is 16 pixels wide, and there's a little bit of a space between each of them. So the width is okay, but the height doesn't need to be as big as that. So I can reduce that to be the size of the images, which is also 16 pixels. So now the hearts should be working pretty well. We've got the images loaded in. However, they're not actually representing the health of the player.
Mesti di
So
script. Itu
whenever
gue
the
udah
player
4 berapa
dies,
men?
takes damage, nothing changes.
Kayak
in the
ini
hearts.
5 nggak sih? Oh, 461 5. Ngarep gue juga halu. 461 aku.
We need to control that inside of our code. So we go into the heads up display script, which already exists because we've got the fade function. We can now start to add in the code for controlling the hearts instead. And to even start doing anything like that, we need to get access to the container itself. So let's
Jadi
drag
di drag
this over,
lah
hold
ya.
control, and that will give us this heart variable. But just to avoid any confusion, let's make it more specific than that and call it hearts container. Now we can start creating the
Panjang
function
banget sih.
that's going to control the number of hearts that are being drawn. So we'll create a function here called underscore update health, and this will take one argument, which is going to be the new health,
Update
and that's going to be an integer.
health.
It doesn't return it.
Health new health integer void.
Anything, so we add void at the end, and inside this function we need to calculate how many hearts we're going to display and what type of hearts they're going to be. So by default I'm going to have 5 hearts. I already know that because that's what I've designed in this display. Each heart is going to represent 20 health. So the player has 100 health in total, then each one of these is going to be 20. If the player loses 10 health, then I draw half a heart. If the player loses 20 health, then I draw 4 hearts and an empty heart. And so on, it's going to recalculate depending on how much health the player has left. So we need to add that as a variable. At the very top, we will add a new variable, which will be a constant, and that will be the heart underscore size, which will be equal to 20.
Oke, var. Kenapa gede semua ya? Var size equals 20.
Actually, let's make it an integer and make it equal to 20.
Oh. Kita integer equals 20.
20. So each heart, when it's full, is 20 health points.
Bentar ya. Sebentar guys. Aku ini. Bentar ya. Oke. Bentar. Oke.
So now inside of our update health function, we need to calculate how many full healths, hearts, how many half hearts, and how many empty hearts we're going to draw. So first, let's access all of these individual rectangles, or these individual images. We'll
Mesti
say
ditarik.
var hearts
Var
is equal to the hearts container, which we got earlier,
hearts.
dot get underscore children. So that's
Hearts. Hearts underscore equals hearts container dot get children.
it's going to get all 5 of these heart color rectangles or texture rectangles. Then I need to know what the maximum number of hearts is. I know myself that it's 5 because that's how many hearts I've created, but let's not hard code that and instead assign it to a variable. We'll say max hearts is equal to length or len of the hearts variable. So this is going to get the number of children, or rather it's going to get all of the children inside of this container, which will be 5 hearts. And then this section here will calculate how many there are and assign number 5 to my max hearts. And now we basically just calculate in order how many full hearts, how many half hearts, and how many empty hearts. So first let's start with the full ones. We'll say full is equal to, remember this function takes an argument of new health. So it's going to be new underscore health divided by the heart size.
New health divided by.
So let's just break down what's actually happening here. Let's say the new health we just started and the new health is 100. That means that the player's health is full. Each heart is 20 HP. So that's this heart size variable. So we'll take 100 divided by 20 and that will give us 5
full hearts.
Which is exactly
Oh,
right.
oke.
Players got full health.
Oh, mesti satu-satu dong di ininya.
90. Well then this will be 90 divided by 20, which is 4.5. We can't have 4.5 full hearts. So we'll have 4 full hearts and half a heart. That means that we should not have this as a float, which is what it's going to return in the moment. We need to turn this into an integer. So we'll just wrap that inside of
Oh, oke.
That way, if we do have 90 divided by 20 and we
Di ini. Ini.
get 4.5, the result will just be 4. And that will continue on down. So let's say we have 60 health. 60 divided by 20 is 3. Well, that's 3 full hearts. So the full hearts are fine. Now we move on to the half hearts. And those, we can only have one. So we basically either have a half a heart or we don't. We're not going to have, let's run this code and just show you what happens. We're not going to have 3 full hearts and then 2 half hearts. That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Mm-mm.
So it'd only be 3 full hearts, a half and nothing, or 3 full hearts, nothing and nothing. So basically, we only get a half heart when there is a leftover from here. So let's just type this out, and it might be easier to understand that way.
Okay,
So
okay.
half is equal to 1, meaning that there is half a heart, only if our new
Plus 1 if
health
new out integer.
divided by, but instead of using normal division, we use the modulo division divided by heart size. So
Modular division tuh persen. Size.
basically the same function as above, but using modulo division instead of normal division. What this does is it calculates the remainder. So it says, for example, if we have 100 divided by 20 with modulo, there's no remainder, the number is just 5. But if we have 90 divided by 20, the remainder is going to be 10. So that means that there should be half a heart. So if the remainder is greater than 0, then we have half a heart. Otherwise, we don't. So that gives us the full and the half heart. Then the remaining ones
House.
are just going to be empty. So we'll say empty is equal to the max hearts, which we know is 5, but we've calculated it up here in this variable, minus the hearts that we've already worked out. So full plus half. So if there's 2 full hearts
Minus full.
and then half a heart,
Oh, half.
that leaves 2 empty hearts at the end. So let's see if this actually works. I know we typed quite a lot of code there, but we need a way of calling this function. So just temporarily, I will create a ready function. I will delete this afterwards. We don't actually need one, but it's just to test this out. So let's call update health, and we put in a new health of, well, let's say 50. And then inside of this function, let's print all of these out. So we'll print full, print half.
Oh, nih udah kita bikin file ready. Help 50. Print full. Print half.
Half, and then print empty. You don't really need to follow, or you don't need to type out this part in your own code. This is really just to test what's happening here. So when I run this, let's see if it works.
Enggak sih. Apa nih?
Okay, so it's done a calculation and it's told me that if I have 50 health, which I just passed in, then what would we have? Well, it's basically half of this, right? So 2 full hearts, that's right. 1 half heart, that's also right. And then
Dan
2
to
empty hearts.
empty.
So the
Oh.
calculations are working and we're getting this output correctly. So now what we need to do is, instead of printing it out here, actually change the images. We've got the pictures down here, but we're not actually changing them on the on this container. So let's head back into our script, and I no longer need this, so I'll delete the print statements, but I will keep this section so that I can continue testing this. And what we need to do now is load these images in, but we're not going to load them in like we normally do by assigning it manually to a texture up here. No, instead we will load them into the code. That way we can change the pictures dynamically whenever this function is called. Up here above the onReady variables, but underneath our constant, let's create some more constants. So this will be const heart underscore full.
Oh, tuh const bukan.
And this will be an image. So we want to preload our image, and the image is going to be
Equals reload.
well, we can just navigate to it here, or can I just type heart full? Yeah. Okay, so that's the image that we want to use. Then let's just copy this down a couple more times and change it to this one becomes
Half. Half. The
half, and the last one becomes empty. And I need to then change the file names as well. So this is half. Good. And then this last one is empty. So that's our images loaded in. We know how many of each type of heart we need to show. The last thing left to do then is to actually update those images. So we add a comment here to say update full hearts. We'll do them step by step. So we'll do the full, then the halves, and then whatever's left, we'll do the empty images. So how do we actually do this? Well, fortunately, earlier we had loaded in the hearts container as this variable, and then we got its children and saved it inside the variable hearts. So hearts right now is a list, or it's an array, and it contains these 5 hearts. I can access each one of them with an index. So if I say, not health, if I say hearts, square brackets 0, that's going to give me this first one. If I say 4, that's going to give me the last one. I know the numbers at the end don't match up with that, but it's the way indexes work. They always start at 0 instead of 1. So what we need to do then is figure out how many full hearts we've got, which we've already calculated, and then change that many of these heart rectangles into the correct image. So we're going to use a for loop for that. We will say for I in full, which is the number of full hearts. We take the hearts list, access index I, and change the texture. See, texture to heart underscore full, which is
Wah, gua gak ngerti gua nih. Itu loh.
Which is the number of full hearts. We take the hearts list, access index I, and change the texture. See the texture to heart underscore full, which is the image we just loaded in up here. So it's the full heart image. And then we carry on. We'll add another comment down here to say update half heart, which we can only have one of. So if half is equal to, well, if half basically. So if it's a 1, then it means it's true. So we'll get this value here. Then hearts. So we'll get this value here. Then hearts. So how do we know which one? Because we've now got 2, or at this point we would have, 2 full hearts and half a heart. So that means that these first 2 are going to be full hearts, and then this third one needs to be half heart. Well, we just pass in full as the index because it's the number of full hearts. If we've got 2 full hearts,
Bentar guys, sumpah ini nggak, aku benar-benar kesel nih gara-gara botnya ini loh, nggak membantu sama sekali. Kenapa mau ini bot dipasang sama Bang Roymon, kesel aku.
hearts, and the index starts at 0, then 0, 1, 2. This will be the half heart. So then we take the texture and we set that to heart underscore half. And then, well, we just pass in.
Orang 15 tapi chat gua kagak jalan, buat apa coba? Orang yang datang masuk ke stream gua coba lihat, wah gila orang apa? Vtuber view bot coba. Ih, buat apa jadinya kan? Ngerusak channel gua yang ada. Males banget.
As the index, because it's the number of full hearts. If we've got 2 full hearts and the index starts at 0, then 0, 1, 2. This will be the half heart. Number of full hearts. If we've got 2 full hearts and the index starts at 0, then 0, 1, 2. This will be the half heart. Be half heart. Well,
aku nggak nonton juga ya, lagi ada sampingan. Ya bang, udah banyak ininya bang, udah banyak variabel ininya, soalnya setiap kali kau datang itu tiba-tiba langsung bot ada. Gue confront begini hilang langsung. Tolong banget bang, gue appreciate bantuanmu bang, tapi ini nggak membantu sama sekali bang. Tolong banget bang, tolong banget.
we just pass in full as the index because it's the number of full hearts. If we've got 2 full hearts and the index starts at 0, then 0, 1, 2.
Gue mending banget lah, gue viewer 2, 4, 5 nggak apa-apa, nggak masalah. Nggak masalah gue, yang penting asli udah. Oh memang sepi ya sepi aja, kalau memang rame ya rame aja. Jangan rame tapi kagak ada yang jalan. Chat gue nggak ada yang jalan ini. View 15 tapi chat gue kagak ada yang jalan sama sekali. Buat apa?
So then we take the texture and we set that to heart underscore half. And then
Kelihatannya aja bagus tapi kayak apaan nih VTuber view bot. Buat apa? Aku udah dibilang kayak begitu. Ya nggak tahu, orang dari Vtuber sendiri kagak apa? Kagak ngebot. Tahu datang dari mana nih botnya. Gue mesti ngerti dulu nih codingnya ini.
If we've got two full hearts and the index starts at 0, then 0, 1, 2. This will be the half heart. So then we take the texture. If we've got two full hearts and the index, so we'll get this value here. Then hearts. So how do we know which one? Because we've now got two, or at this point we would have, two full hearts and half a heart. So that means that these first two are going to be full hearts, and then this third one needs to be half heart. Well, we just pass in full as the index because it's the number of full hearts. If we've got two full hearts and the index starts at 0, then 0, 1, 2. This will be the half heart. So then we take the texture and we set that to heart underscore half. And then for the last one, update empty hearts. And again, we have to use a for loop because we could have more than one empty heart. For I in empty. And this time we have to work backwards from the end. So this gets a little bit well, not complicated, but a
Atau nih for sama if apa bedanya?
little bit confusing. So
For I in empty. Udah sampai mana fiturnya, Mon? Ini sampai nggak tahu. Terus terang gue cuma ngikutin ininya aja, tutorialnya aja. Bang sekali aku panggil kamu apa? Iya, apa aku ngikutin tutorial aja, nggak tahu sampai mana aku udah dapet fitur, maksud fiturnya itu di notesnya kah atau apanya nih? Codingnya. Kalau notesnya aku udah banyak, aku udah pakai player hit apa character body, hitbox area 2D, terus udah pakai yang apa nih, yang texture rectangle, terus tile set map juga aku udah pakai, terus apa collision shape juga udah pakai. Yang kalau untuk masalah coding aku masih belum tahu apa-apa sih. I mean sudah implementasi apa yang sebelumnya nggak ada. Oke, aku sebelumnya itu kan yang sampai terakhir apa tuh namanya? Sampai terakhir aku stream kemarin itu aku baru bisa kena damage doang, kena damage terus udah ada suara kalau kena damage. Nah, ini aku lagi mau masukin buat ini health bar, terus kayak mau coding buat ininya, coding buat apa tuh namanya, gambar-gambar health barnya seperti itu.
we know how many hearts we have in total. So that's the full.
If I in for I in empty colon hearts length hearts. Nah, ini lagi apa bedanya dalam kurung yang lingkaran sama dalam kurung kotak? Hearts. Sebentar. Aku ada ya heart yang pakai H ya? Sebentar. Alamak, mati gua. Sebentar. Heartnya ada yang gue pakai H coba. Mati gua. Kurung melengkung kayak kurung di matematika buat apa tuh? Iya, buat perkalian. Sebentar. Health, update health. Ntar di cons gua heartnya gak ada H. Hearts container full Ini kan variabel length heart. Kenapa? Emang gua ada masukin hearts. Nah, hearts container. Oh, ini. Nah. Ingat guys, hearts itu nggak pakai TH. Nah, berarti ini nggak pakai H. Hearts. Hearts. Ini length kurung hearts. Kurung kotak itu buat array, misal daftar 3, berarti daftar 3 elemen nomor. Daftar elemen nomor 3. Elemen pertama itu nomor 0. Oh, oke. Oh, untuk ini ya, untuk urutan ya, benar-benar berarti untuk apa daftar ya. Oke, thank you.
Number of hearts. But that's going to give us a number of 5. Because the indexes start at 0, we need to offset everything by 1. So actually, we need to subtract 1 from this.
Kurang 1.
Oops, not 0, 1. That will give us the very last heart, which is heart number 5. And then we subtract our I variable from the for loop because we're working backwards through each one. Then we set the texture to heart underscore empty. So now we've done quite a lot of typing. I'm almost scared to test this, but let's see what will happen. Okay.
Oh, let's go. Ini mesti ku save ini.
Surprised, but that worked first time. So we've got 2 hearts, a half, and then 2 empty ones. So that's really cool. That worked well, but we're manually updating the health because we're just putting in 50. What we actually need to do is connect this into our player so that when the player's health changes, it calls this function and we update the health that way. So we need to go back into our player and go into the player script where we will create a new signal. So right now we have a signal for when the player dies, but we're going to add another one for when the player's health changes. So this is signal health underscore changed. And we know that we need to tell with the signal what the new health actually is. So new health is an integer. Now
Change new health integer.
we can use this signal, or rather we can emit this signal. So whenever we take damage, let's go into our take damage function. Where is it? So down here, we take damage, we reduce the health, we assign the health into our global variable, and then we're printing the health at the moment. But let's get rid of that and instead emit the signal. And the signal is health changed.
Emit signal health change.
The one we just created, but then it needed an argument as well, and the argument is the health. So once the player takes damage, loses 10 health, we emit that signal saying, okay, now we've got this new health. But how do we connect our player into our heads-up display? This is where it gets a little bit messy, because if we go back into our main scene, our player is a child of level root, but our hearts are inside of our heads-up display. So right now there's no clean connection between those things. There are different ways of setting this up, but we're going to do this inside of our main script. So this will actually take the player, take the heads-up display, and just join them together. So inside of our main script, let's go into setup level. This is where we're doing all of our connections anyway. So we've got our player, which we load in, we assign the variable, and then we connect the died signal. So what we want to do here actually is get our heads-up display. So let's drag this over into here.
Oops.
Actually, is get our heads-up display.
Player. Oh,
Okay, so let's drag this over into here. And we need to somehow assign the player variable into the heads-up display. Well, right now there's no way of doing that, but if we go back into the heads-up display script, we can create a function that will allow us to do this. So let's get rid of this ready function. We've done our testing, we don't need that anymore. And we will replace it with a function called set_player. Inside, the argument is just going to be p, short for player, doesn't return anything. And what we'll do here is, actually we need to create a variable. So above this section, we'll say var player. So now the heads up display has a variable called player, and it's an empty variable that's going to store our player node. Now inside this function, we can take our player variable and assign it as the p that we receive from the setPlayer function. Okay, and now we're jumping back and forth, but let's go back into our main script. Now our heads up display has a new function called set_player. And inside this function, we pass in the player node. So now the two things are connected in the sense that our heads up display knows what the player is. It has a direct link into our player node. But the signal, the health change signal, is still not connected. So that's what we still need to do. We'll say if player, just to avoid any errors. Then we get our player, we take the health changed signal, we connect it, and then the
oh hell, change.
function that we want to fire when something changes in health is this new one, update health. So we call it here. But what we also want to do when we first set the player is readjust the health anyway. So we're going to call this function the first time this happens. Although we've connected the signal, this signal isn't going to fire until the player takes damage. So whenever we create the player, let's just update the health to make sure all of that is correct. So we'll take our player and take his health and set it here. So let's test this out.
Sabar, jangan dites dulu. Dot health, player dot health. Hah? Health. Update health. Player dot health.
His health and set it here. So let's test this out, and immediately, because we started the game and we're testing it with 10 health, this is calculated that we've got half a health.
Oh. Hey. Hey. Nice. Yeay, berhasil. Udah gas bikin game. Belum. Gas go slow, gas go.
Take some damage. We get killed. That drops to no hearts. It's empty. We reset the game and we've gone back up to 5 full hearts because the player's got full health again. So that is now working exactly as we intended. We've now got the full display of the different health of the player. It resets when the player dies, and then I can start taking damage again. So that's working really well. The next thing I want to do is add a way for the player to actually be able to heal. So we can take damage from the slimes, but it would be nice if we could restore some of that health over time.
Okay.
So we're going to add that in the next video in this series. Hello folks, in the last video we added a little bit more polish to the game by creating
Oh, ini udah ini guys, udah part terakhirnya nih.
these
Udah
health
game
dots
polish.
on top to indicate how much health the player has got. And they're working pretty well. We're able to take damage, reset the health over time, or rather reset the health when a player dies. But one thing that's missing is that we can't actually heal. So it would be nice if there was some kind of items, like collectibles that we could pick up, that would restore some of the player's health. So what we'll do is we'll create these items that the enemies are going to drop and the player can then collect. These will be little health drops. So let's create a new scene, and this will
New scene.
be another node which is going to be an area 2D. So there's not going to be any collision or anything fancy. These are going to be pretty simple nodes. We can rename area 2D into health pickup and then assign a couple of child nodes. So the first one is a sprite 2D so that we can assign some kind of picture to it. And the second one is going to be a collision shape 2D. So now we need to assign some kind of image to our health pickups. In the previous video, we had used this Ninja Adventure asset pack because we wanted to use these health images, or rather these heart images from it. Well, that same asset pack has a separate image specifically for that. So if we go into the UI folder, then receptacle, you see that we've got the different hearts that we used, and then there's this icon heart. So that's just a standalone heart that we can use as our item drop. So let's load that into our Godot file system. It's not part of the UI, so we'll minimize that and instead create a new folder inside of images, which will be called items.
Oh, bentar guys. Sorry. Okay.
So right now we're just going to have this one heart, but we could expand this to add all sorts of collectibles. We'll head back into this asset pack and just drag over the icon heart file into our items folder. So now we've loaded that in, we can assign that as the texture for a sprite. So that gives us this pickup, but just like everything else, we're going to have to scale.
Kok collision.
Scale this up. So let's go into transform, change the scale up to 4, which will give us a much bigger heart image. So that's pretty good. Now the next thing to do is assign a collision shape for it so that the player can actually interact with and pick this up. And we're going to use a rectangle. I know it's not exactly a rectangular shape, but it really doesn't matter that much. So we just need to align it roughly with the outline of the heart image. And now we can save this scene. Oops, let's go in here. Save that scene inside of the scenes folder as health pickup. Oops, let's go in here. Save that scene inside of the scenes folder as health pickup. So now we can assign these into our level.
Apa coba?
So let's head over into our base level, because this is going to be effectively the template for the rest of our levels, meaning that if we want to make any substantial changes, it should be inside of this base level scene. And what we're going to do is add another child node, which will be an area. No, sorry, it's just a node 2D. I'll add this one and rename it to items.
Dan
So if I save that, I should now see it inside of all of my other levels. So we see it here as a yellow node. And that's fine, we're not going to manually add these in right now. When the game progresses, the idea is that the slimes are going to drop these hearts whenever they're killed. But I guess for now, we need to be able to actually test this. So let's go into our level 1 and just instantiate, just temporarily, let's instantiate a child scene, which is going to be this health pickup. Where was it going to be? So it appears over here.
Eh?
Here, that's way too far. Let's bring it over to the player. And if we run the game, we should now see this heart next to us. That is way too big. Not sure why it's so big. Maybe I scaled it up a little bit too high. Let's change the scale. So we head back over to health pickup. Let's drop this to 3. I think 4 might have been a bit too big. So head back to level 1. That does look better. Yeah, I think that's a lot better. So that makes a bit more sense, and the scale is a bit better than.
Eh?
Before. However, the player can't actually pick it up. But we've done a lot of this already, so whenever we have an area 2D, we know how to check if there's been a collision between this and the player. So what we need to do is add a script onto our health pickup. We go into our scripts folder and save it in here. This will give us our process and ready functions, but we don't need either one of those. Instead, we head straight over to our node tab and select the health pickup, and we choose body entered signal. We connect that into our health pickup.
Eh!
Here we now have this function.
Sorry, oh cannot sih.
And select the health pickup, and we choose body entered signal. We connect that into our health pickup, and here we now have this function. So the problem here is that a slime could quite easily pick up one of these healths, which we definitely don't want. So the first thing to do is check if the body name is equal to our player. And
Who's two player?
if it is, well, then that's good. The player's picked it up, so we need to be able to heal the player. So let's just say print heal. But we also need to define how much the healing's or how much is going to heal the player for. So let's create a variable, or rather a constant, which is going to be called health effect. This will be an integer, and we'll say it'll heal for 20 HP. So every time the player picks up one of these health drops, he's going to increase his health by 20. So underneath, let's say print health effect. Okay, now let's test this out. We'll save that scene. Health effect. Okay, now let's test this out. We'll save that scene, run the game, and get this collision. Okay, so it says
Oke.
Heal 20. But the image doesn't disappear, so we can just keep on healing over and over. And also, we're not actually healing. Nothing's changing up here. But we know that we're getting that collision and things are being detected.
Belum
correctly.
di script ke situ.
The first thing to do is let's actually heal the player properly. So what we'll do is go back into our player script here. We already have a function for taking damage. So we kind of just do a similar thing, but for healing. We'll create another function called heal. The argument in here is the amount, and it's an integer. And we just say void at the end. And what we're going
Mount colon int void.
to do here is basically the opposite. So we take the health, but we increase it by the amount. And we assign that health into our global
Equal plus equal. Mount.
player stats variable. So let's just copy that into here. And once we've done player stats variable. So let's just copy that into here. And once we've done that, we will need to update our hearts. Well, luckily, we've already done that previously. We created a signal for notifying our heads-up display that the player's health has changed. So we can use that exact same code. We can emit the signal again. This time the health has increased, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is that the health has changed from what it was before. So the hearts are going to be redrawn. But there could be a case where the player already has full health and picking up one of these hearts takes you beyond that level. So we want to account for that. So we'll say
Max
if
health.
health is greater than or equal to max health, then
If health greater to equal to max health.
health is just equal to max health. So that just puts a limit
Oh,
on that
just
health.
equals
it can
to
never exceed
max
the
health.
maximum amount. Now we can go
Health.
back into our health pickup script. And this time, instead of printing this information,
Gak ngerti aku anjir. Begitulah Mon. Apa? Ini lagi argumennya itu kalau misalnya kan aku lagi sekarang tuh lagi mau coding bikin alat heal. Semangat Mon, thank you. Jadi apa alat heal. Jadi kalau misalnya kita luka kan buat nge-heal. Nah, pas di pick up itu kan ada argumen tuh Mon. Kalau nanti misalnya udah max health-nya nanti ke heal terus gitu. Nah, makanya dibikin argumennya itu jadi if kalau health-nya itu kurang lebih sama dengan max health, jadi health-nya itu ya max health. Jadi meskipun diambil tetap ke heal-nya itu max health gitu loh. Ngerti gak Bon?
let's just take the body, which we know is the player, and call the heal function and pass in the health effect.
Oh, sabar. If body name player, take the body dot heal health effect. Ngerti ya, kamu ngerti Bang sekali pakai buang si amonnya itu.
So now I think when I go and pick one of these up, if it works, this should increase. And it did.
Wih. Nah, gini Mon. Jadi kalau misalnya aku ambil pick up-nya terus, gameku nggak error karena ku set max health-nya kalau diambil lagi ininya, jadi dia jadi max health ngehealnya gitu.
So now the health has jumped by 20, which has given me a full heart and a half. If I do it again, I should get another full heart. And I did. So that is working pretty well. Actually, let's test what happens at the end. Yep, exactly. So it just filled up the rest of that half. It didn't go over and give me another half at the end. So that's working pretty well, but the hearts are not disappearing, so I can kind of just cheat and keep picking them up. What we need to do is make them disappear. So let's go down here, and after the heart has been picked up by the player, we can just delete it. But it's not quite as simple as that. So when I collect these hearts, I want to be able to play a little sound effect. So let's actually add that in first, because that will then make more sense as to why we can't just delete this node. So we'll add another child node here, which is going to be audio stream player 2D, and we'll rename that to be collected sound. So inside of the audio folder, I'm going to drag on another sound effect, which is going to be health pickup. So I got this, this is another free sound. Sound effect, and I will link this one in the video description too, so you can download this one. Then we just need to assign it into our collected sound node. So drag this over here, and then as soon as we've picked up this item, we want to play that sound. So we'll say, oh, actually we need to drag over the collected sound first so that we have access to the variable. Then we take our collected sound and we say dot play. So let me test this out, and
Kenapa aku mau pencet F5 di situ?
audio stream player 2D, and we'll rename that to be collected sound.
Let's go.
So inside of the audio
Tolong.
folder, I'm going to drag on another sound effect, which is going to be health pickup. So I got this, this is another free sound effect, and I will link this one in the video description too, so you can download this one. Then we just need to assign it into our collected sound node. So drag this over here. And then as soon as we've picked up this item, we want to play that sound. So we'll say, oh, actually we need to drag over the collected sound. So let me, but I get a sound effect, a little, I don't know, like a bell ringing to signify that I've picked this up. So let's say now I want to delete this. I've picked up the item, so we don't need it anymore. So we call q_free. But if I test this out and pick it up, the sound doesn't play. And that's because this all happens immediately. So as soon as we say play the sound, we then say, okay, never mind, delete the item. I want to wait until the sound effect is finished playing before I delete it.
Await berarti.
So I'm going to use await
Nah, kan bener.
here, and I'll take my collected sound dot finished.
Oh ya, oke. Jadi await collect sound finished.
So I'm actually going to wait until the sound effect finishes playing before I delete the heart. If I play it again, it now does work. But you saw there was
Oh, cuman dikit bentar. Apa lama hilangnya ya?
a little bit of a delay. I picked up the heart, and then there's like a second before it disappears. And that's because we're waiting for the sound effect to finish. But what if I pick it up and then, oh, it didn't work that time. I wasn't fast enough. But if I pick it up, okay. I guess I'm not fast enough, but the point I was trying to...
Kita coba. Jadi bisa apa nge-glitch, di-glitch ya kan? Ya, Bethesda game, guys. Kita Oh enggak. Coba bisa nggak? Bisa kejadian nggak tuh yang dia bilang? Oh enggak.
Illustrate is that while the heart is still here, it might be possible to pick it up more than once in the time when the sound effect is playing. So what I actually need to do is disable this collision shape. That way the player can't pick up the item twice. So once we've healed, straight away we are going to say, well, we need to disable this collision shape, but that means we need access to it. So we drag that over
Bisa kalau
as
kamu
well.
cukup cepat
We
ya.
get this variable, and we say collision shape 2D set deferred, and what we're deferring is we're going to disable the collision shape and
Set. Deferred.
we're going to set that variable
Disable.
to
Argumennya.
true, so it's going to be disabled. If we try to do this without set deferred, we're going to get an error because this is a physics property. We can't change those during the game running. So this will essentially change it once it's safe to do so. So if I run it again, everything still kind of looks like the same as before, but I know that it's not possible for me to now collect it twice because the collision shape becomes disabled immediately. But I can still see the heart, which is kind of weird. So let's hide it. We'll say visible is equal to false. So now when I pick it up, it immediately disappears. We actually know that it's still there for about a second, but it's no longer visible. The collision shape has been deactivated. It's really not deleted just because I want the sound effect to finish playing. So that is basically the item pickups working. However, we've manually added
Let's
them
go.
into level 1.
Oke.
I don't actually want to do this. I don't want to just place them around the level. Instead, I want them to be rewards that the player gains from killing the slimes. So we're going to delete it from here. And then we're going to go into our slimes.
Oke, di slime.
And make the slimes drop these items. So let's switch over to our script and go into the slime script.
FYI, visible false itu sama dengan hide. Oh, function hide. Visible true sama dengan show. Oh, oke.
So first of all, we need a new variable. This variable is going to determine how often these items are going to drop. So we'll say constant drop underscore chance. We'll set this to a float, and it'll be a value between 0 and 1. So it's like a percentage basically. Okay, 0% up to 100%. So let's just, for the sake of testing, set this to 1, which will mean that it's guaranteed that we're going to drop something. But I need to make sure I spell this correctly. It's drop chance. We then need to give that item to the slime. So we need to preload it the same way as we did with the health images, those hearts. We can preload a scene as well. So it's not just images and assets. You can actually preload other scenes. We'll add a variable
Nonton
here
anime dulu,
called
boleh.
pick
Udah
up
pusing ya, Mon.
underscore scene.
Health pick up. Scene
Is equal to preload, and what we pass in here is the scene that we want, which is the health pickup. Let's find the correct thing, health pickup scene. So now we actually have this scene assigned inside of the slime. It's not a child of it, but it has access to it. So now we need to create a function that's going to drop these items.
Yeah, function drop.
Let's head down to the bottom somewhere where we've got all of these signals. And right at the end, I'll just create a new function, which will be called drop underscore item. And inside this function, we will first of all create a variable called drop. And this drop is going to be our health pickup scene. So it's basically that item. We've now assigned it into a variable, which we need to instantiate.
Equals. Instantiate.
So that scene is ready to go. We need to define its position as well in the world, because by default it appears in the top left corner, but we want
Emang
to
kena
drop it wherever
mental.
the slime is.
Tidak
So when the
mengerti
slime is killed,
secercah
in
pun
its
malah
place,
bolak-balik
it's
lihat
dropped
TV
with
aku.
these items. So the drop's position is just equal to the slime's position. What we then need to do once we've created this drop is put it inside of our level. So each of our levels now has this items node, and right now it's empty, but we will dynamically add items into it. So we need to get a hold of this items node. Well, we know that the slime is inside the enemies node, which is a child of level root. Items and enemies are siblings, they're side by side. So from the slime, I just need to go up 2 levels and then get the items. The way we do that is by getting our level root. Level root is equal to get underscore parent, which will take us from the slime into this, that's the parent. And then we need to go one more time. So we'll get the next parent. You can stack these as many times as you need, but it can get a little bit messy if you go too far up. In this case, because the level structure is more or less fixed, it's okay to use this syntax. We're essentially going from the slime, we say what's the parent of that? It's enemies. What's the parent of enemies? It's level root. So that gives me my level root node. From there, I need to get the items node. So we can say var items underscore node is equal to our level root dot get node, and the node we want is items. So now we have a direct line into this items node here. And since we have the items node and we have the drop that we want to add into it, we just take our items node, call deferred, and what we want to do is add a child.
Item call
And the child we want to add is this drop. So this is now going to take the drop, instantiate it, and add it as a child of this items node. So that is pretty much ready to go. We just need to call this function somewhere. And the place we're going to call it is whenever the slime dies. So inside this die function, after we've done pretty much everything else, let's add in a drop. So we'll add a comment to say drop health pickup. And the way this will work is we'll create a random number, a random float. So we say if rand f, random float, is less than or equal to our drop chance, which remember right
Ini equals.
Now we've set to 1. So a random float is going to be between 0 and 1. So this is basically guaranteed to run every time. If that be between 0, remember right now we've set to 1. So a random float is going to be between 0 and 1. So this is basically guaranteed to run every time. If that happens, then we need to drop an item. So let's test this out. Let's go over and then we need to drop an item. So let's test this out.
Oke, kita coba. Oh, let's go. Eh? Kok mati? Bentar.
Let's go over and kill one of these slimes. I'll probably get killed in the process, but we'll try. Oh, I killed it behind. Oh no, here it is. Let's now hit one more time. And there we go. We dropped a health bar, or we dropped a heart in its place. I can pick it up. Okay. I guess we have a little bit of a bug here. So that part of it was working, but we've discovered a little bug, which is that when the slime is dead, it can actually continue hurting the player. So let's fix that too. I think that will be fixed inside of this section here actually, because what we've done when we disable the collision, okay, going on a bit of a side mission here, but we need to fix this while we've noticed it. When the slime dies, we disable the various collision shapes. So the main collision shape is disabled, meaning that the slime can't take damage. The side collision shape is disabled, meaning that the enemy can't see the player anymore, but the hitbox is not. So we drag over this collision shape, and I'll just copy this from above.
Hitbox. Oh iya. Oke. Ngerti. Karena apa? Iya, kita masukin ininya enggak.
Set deferred disabled. So I guess because we've added that recently, we hadn't
Oh.
gone back and disabled this. Let's test this out again. First, let me die because
Mati dong. Oh. Oke, udah gak kena damage ya.
I've got no health here. And we'll come back with full health. We'll take on this enemy. And let's see now. So once we kill him, eventually, he drops the heart. So this should now go to 4.5, which it did. And I'm not taking damage from the dead enemy anymore. Okay, so we fixed the bug, and we've also got this working pretty well. What I would do though is change this drop chance to something a little bit less. So if I say 0.5, that's maybe still a little bit high. I can play around with this number, but it basically means there's a 50% chance that a slime is going to drop a heart and is killed. Now we're almost done with this game. There's just a little bit of polish that I would like to add. So first of all, let's reset some of these variables. I'll start with the player stats. We'll go in here and set the health back up to 100 now that we're done with the testing. And then we go into level 1, and obviously let's fix this. The player shouldn't be starting all the way over there. The actual start is somewhere down here. And maybe chuck in a couple more slimes just to add a bit more challenge to level 1. Then level 2 is okay, there's plenty of enemies here. And level 3 is pretty good too. We've got a little bit of a variety here. But one thing that is missing is background music. So we go into our main scene, add another child node, which will be an audio stream player 2D, rename that to music, and then I drag over the music file into my audio folder, which again I will leave a link to in the video description. It's another open source audio file. Then we grab this, drag it over here, and we'll just tick the autoplay button so that it starts playing as soon as the game begins. And what I would like to do is loop the song so that when it finishes, it just goes back to the start and plays again. But the loop mode here is disabled and there's no way for me to change it. This took me a little bit of time, a little bit of research to figure out how to make it loop. So what I need to do is go into import with the music selected, and I need to re-import it with these settings. So I go into loop mode and I can actually change it here and set it to forward. And I can actually change it here and set it to forward. Then I can re-import my audio file, and now I do have a loop. So it's basically going to play, well, quite a lot of times. So the loop is never going to finish. I can now give one more test to my game, and you might not be able to hear it, but I now.
Let's go, game pertama kita kelar guys. Lagunya nggak sesuai sama ini. Bentar.
Now hear the background music. I hear all the different sound effects from the enemies taking damage and me doing damage to them. I can run through all my different levels and everything's working exactly as intended. So that is pretty much.
Bentar. Kok cuman di beberapa daerah doang ya?
Much this game completed. I hope you enjoyed this series. If you did, then hit like, hit subscribe, and if you do want to get hold of all of these project files with all of the images, folders, everything organized in one place, as well as the 3 levels that I've created, then you can head over to my Patreon, where I upload all of the source code and all the project files for pretty much every game that I've made on my YouTube.
Bentar. Itu ini.
This took me a little bit of time, a little bit of research to figure out how to make it loop. So what I need to do is go into import with the music selected, and I need to re-import it with these settings. So I go into loop mode and I can actually change it here and set it to forward. Then I can re-import my audio file, and now I do have a loop. So it's basically going to play, well, quite a lot of times. So the loop is never going to finish. I can now give one more test to my game.
Ya musiknya itu dia ini apa tuh namanya? Kayak apa tuh? Distance-nya apa ya? Dua ribu pixel. Bang sekali pakai masih ada nggak? Ini aku mau nanya ininya. Kayak dia tuh apa? Kayak posisi lagunya tuh kayak di atas gitu loh. Bentar. Begini ya? Terus kita bikin dia max. Coba. Oh, mau musiknya nggak mengecil kalau menjauh pakai audio stream player biasa, bukan yang 2D atau 3D. Oh. Coba berarti yang mana? Oh, audio stream player. Oke. Oh. Ini begini. Autoplay. Oke. Coba. Oh, iya. Let's go. Mau gede banget ya. Let's go. Step buat sebagian note bisa mempertahankan beberapa value dari note sebelumnya meski jenis note yang berubah. Hah? Maksudnya? Oke, jadi ini gamenya. Aku belum ada apa-apa sih, cuman 3 level game begini aja. Dan ini pun harusnya nggak ada ini sih. Aku bikin nggak ada aja ini. Sip. Nih, oke, ya udahlah. Ini gimana sih kalau mau ekspornya? Yang ini ya. Oh, klik kanan note ada menu change type buat ganti misalnya audio. Oh. Hmm. Oh, ini change type. Oke. Thank you infonya. Ya, harus download export template dulu 1 GB. Oh, alah. Udah nanti deh. Yaudah nanti aku tuh ada project lagi. Jadi aku tuh mikir karena aku suka banget sama Legend of Avantris. Aku tuh rencananya mau bikin game berdasarkan Legend of Avantris. Manusia Sprite gua. The editor manage export template. Oh. Nih. Ini karakternya si Frost, Morning Frost. Ini baru apa itu yang pasti ngeliat ke bawahnya. Ini yang ini sheetnya. Ini yang tampak sampingnya seperti ini. Kayaknya nanti aku bakal bikin kayak mirip-mirip, bukan mirip-mirip ya, mirip-mirip Vampire Survivors. Jadi apa roguelite. Terus berarti map scalingnya endless ya itu ya. Oke. Nanti kita lihat aja deh. Pokoknya apa game roguelite berbasis karakter-karakter dari Legend of Avantris seperti itu. Jadi tenang apa paling aku akan mulai dari ininya sih, dari apa, dari kayak building up pixel artnya dulu, dari model-modelnya baru ke sorry, baru ke ininya, baru ke apa tuh, baru ke gamenya. Ya begitu. Yaudah, untuk stream kali ini aku izin pamit dulu semuanya di lobby. Nah, oke, jadi thank you semua, thank you ya yang udah datang. Nih aku minta maaf banget ya. Ini ada orang suka pasang bot di streamku. Jadi maafkan saja, ini ya sudahlah ya. Oh, apa itu versi terbaru widget tersedia? Alamak, udah nanti aja. Let's go bikin game, yes. Daripada apa tuh namanya main game mulu, mending bikin game gak sih. Oke, thank you semuanya sudah datang. Aku izin pamit dulu semuanya. Otsutsu, bye bye.